new moon is in the sky, a 23-inch metal sphere placed in orbit by a Russian rocket. 500 miles up, the artificial moon is boosted to a speed counterbalancing the pull of gravity and released.
In 1957, Russia launched the world's first artificial satellite, Sputnik. I remember my dad taking me out to our backyard one night to watch Sputnik cross the sky. People were frightened by all of this.
You are hearing the actual signals transmitted by the Earth-circling satellite.
That moment shocked America. It shocked it to its core that America could be defeated in some area of technological prowess.
One of the great scientific feats of the age.
It was a wake-up call. It mobilized the spirit of a nation to realize we need to meet, match, and exceed this moment.
We choose to go to the moon.
And we need to put a man on the moon. I would put it to you that the next Sputnik moment is happening.
China is headed to Mars with this dramatic launch from the South China Sea. If successful, Tianwen-1 will be the first mission from any country to bring an orbiter, lander, and rover to Mars, all in its first mission.
Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party in the last 5 years have made it abundantly clear that they intend to not just compete with the United States, they intend to surpass us and to be the world leader in innovative technologies.
We need to up our game. China's investing heavily in its own innovation, in its own military. They are serious competition for us.
It wants to do everything itself. It wants to steal everyone's technology. It wants to be the sole manufacturer in the world.
China continues a rocket launch rate which has seen it lead the world in orbital launches over the past 2 years.
China recognized at one point they wanted to shift from being a manufacturer and a copier of other people's innovative products and services to being a source of innovation and creativity themselves.
They have improved their own education system and their own patent system in order to foster innovation within China. They're doing this very successfully.
The probe will fly by China's new orbital space station before firing its thrusters, sending it on a 6-month journey to Mars.
China has seen that the United States was the global leading country as of the turn of the last century, largely because of our global dominance in invention and innovation. Our patent system was recognized as the world's gold standard for years and years. Yet some of the changes to our patent law over the last decade have weakened it steadily.
Our patent system used to be very strong and reliable. That's no longer the case.
In the 90s and early 2000s, when I filed my patents, they meant something. They said, yes, you invented something and you can own this. But what's happened is that's been diluted.
Patents today are worth about half what they were worth a decade ago.
President Xi Jinping says China has ambitious goals for innovation in space.
Patents haven't just played an important role in growing our economy. They played a key role in developing the technologies that have made our country safe.
Innovation drives economic security and national security. We've lost sight of what it is to protect this nation.
And China plans to become a leading space power by 2045.
China has made a concerted effort to strengthen their own patent system, specifically to take over key future technologies.
And they've gone, hang on a second, what if we don't just steal the technology? What if we steal the system that America actually operated successfully and we implemented in China? What if we out-America America?
China has successfully landed a rover on Mars. The lander touched down on the red planet after surviving the treacherous descent by parachute. China is the third country to land a rover on Mars, but they have achieved in their first mission a milestone that took NASA decades. The US rover Perseverance made a successful landing there earlier, and now competition between these two leading nations for remote control of the cosmos extends millions of kilometers into space.
Wow, that's impressive.
President Xi Jinping
Now everybody get
says
back to
China
work.
has ambitious goals for innovation.
Most inventors, at some point in your life, you realize that you can invent things. I'm Randy Landreneau, president of US Inventor. What drives inventors is the desire to solve problems and to come up with a solution, because a lot of times it's something that you want yourself. You know, it's like, wow, I wish I had this thing. Well, where is it? I can't find it. And you start thinking about how it could exist, and then you create it and you prototype it. And what drives you is the desire to solve a problem. One day, I actually came up with a product, and it was because I had a cat that had all this long hair that was like knotted, and he didn't really take care of himself. And I actually came up with a concept for a type of a pet brush, and I made a prototype, and it worked beautifully. And that's what I got my first couple of patents on.
My name is Adrian Pelkis. I am an artificer. I like to use that term. It means a creator, a craftsman, a person who devises things, an inventor. I had a very early start in my career, ended up devising a little electromechanical hand when I was about 14 years old. I showed that off to a gentleman who was running the Child Amputee Prosthetics Project, and he hired me aboard. This was before I graduated high school. By the time I graduated high school, I was actually responsible for 51 patients building their electronics and prosthetic devices. I prefer to use my intellect to solve problems that are going to be beneficial to all of mankind if possible. We perceive inventors from different angles. One perspective is they're very wealthy, successful, brilliant people that have accomplished this amazing thing in getting a patent and putting a product to market. The truth is, it's your neighbor, and he couldn't get his whatever gardening thing working, and he kludged something in his garage. It worked. Everybody went, wow, and he realized this might be a whole pivot in his life.
How do we turn inventions into innovations? How do we turn an idea in an inventor's head or something in a lab or the garage into a real-world product or a real-world service that other people can use and enjoy? And that's the key of the patent system. That's what patents as property rights do.
I'm Senator Chris Coons from Delaware. A patent is a constitutionally created property right. It's something that our founders, our framers of our Constitution recognized. You had to give people who'd made an invention, a cutting-edge new innovation, the right to protect it so that they could grow in the marketplace where they were disrupting the existing technology.
This is the very first time in human history when the protection of intellectual property was expressly made a function of a government in its founding document. Patents are published. They're title deeds, just like the title deed in your home that you own. Anyone can go and look at it.
So the patent system gives every individual sort of an umbrella, a space where they can create and invent and know that for a certain amount of time, they're going to be able to make some money off of it, allow it to grow, tweak it, make it a better invention that will be better for society, more accepted by consumers.
The key purpose for the patent system is to secure the rights to that newly created property so that you have running room to commercialize it, to develop it into a product, to take it to market, to create a market around it that may not have existed before.
A lot of people think a patent or a copyright is something odd, something weird, a little unusual, but it's not. It's intellectual property. It's a type of property. It protects the same types of rights and secures the same types of values that a farmer creates in their farm, or an industrialist creates when they build a factory to produce goods that they sell in the marketplace. In this instance, the value or the good is the invention or new creative work. Now that invention has value and it's new and it should be secured to the person who created it. One of the great and most incredible achievements of the US patent system is that it offered an alternative to having to keep new inventions secret. It provides that bridge to the marketplace, the ability to contract, the ability to license, the ability to go out into the world and to interact with people with this product because you have an exclusive right how this thing should be used.
If you can create a new market, that's called dynamic competition. That means you are creating an area of commerce that didn't exist before. So not only are you inventing something new, you're also creating a market for that.
We have a great history of inventors in America who've done great things. The Wright brothers, Thomas Edison. We have a system that has encouraged people to be inventors, to solve problems by providing them with the ownership of what they actually created and patented.
Hey, Kayla, how's the bite-sized bot going?
Not doing good.
I understand you modified one of these for your sister a couple weeks ago. How does she like it?
Let me show you. Here.
Oh,
She likes it too much. She's in it more than her wheelchair.
oh, that's great. What's the problem?
My mom can't keep up with her, so I'm trying to find a way to slow it down and keep my sister from rolling into the street.
Okay. Let's see. Have you tried reducing the upper limits on the drive controller?
Yeah, but then it goes too slow.
Let's take a look.
I gotta figure this out. I mean, everyone else is ahead of me. I need that scholarship.
Kayla, keep at it. You may not be there yet, but you're closer than you were yesterday.
Intellectual property is the mechanism by which we translate these scientific and technological miracles into real-life products and services that everyone enjoys every day. What has made the US so successful has been its patent system, a fact recognized by many historians and economists the world over. China's a paradox sometimes. They looked at the United States and said a key feature of what has made the US so successful has been its patent system. China recognized at one point that they wanted to become an innovation economy themselves. They wanted to shift from being a manufacturer and a copier of other people's innovative products and services to being a source of innovation and creativity themselves. But they still do coercively take technologies from American innovators and companies. If you want to do business in China, you can't do business directly in China as a US company or as a German company or English company. You have to work through a Chinese company. And by working through a Chinese company, you have to enter into an agreement with them. And China required disclosure and transfer of all of your intellectual property to that Chinese company. Sometimes all of your intellectual property, not even just the intellectual property that covered the particular product that that Chinese company might be helping you manufacture in their country.
The stealing of intellectual property, the Department of Justice is valued at somewhere around $600 billion per year. And the FBI director has stated it is the largest transfer of wealth in human history.
We welcome competition, but cheating, not okay. Fraud, not okay. Cyber hacking, not okay.
We were concerned about their theft of our intellectual property going back to 2004, 2005, but there's now a pivot. The Chinese have a repeatable model in addressing our processes. It's evade, embrace, supplant. They do this routinely: evade, embrace, supplant. So first, when they evade, they attempt to go around our processes and systems.
This happened to GM in Shanghai when I lived there from 2002 to 2004. They were building Buicks in Shanghai. Pretty soon, there's a new factory down in southern China producing the exact same vehicles sold on another brand name. The company that GM partnered with took the technology, started their own company, and then began competing. So this happens all the time in China.
They realize correctly that without a strong intellectual property patent system, they would be dependent on stealing other inventions rather than inventing their own.
They realize that degrades and constrains their economic growth. So they go to the second stage, which is they embrace our patent process. So they want to learn about it, they participate it, they begin to mimic it.
Now they think that they are strong enough, so they want to protect what they believe is Chinese innovation.
They have improved their own patent system in order to foster innovation within China. They're doing this very successfully.
They went from copying our products and services to copying our patent system. They're really smart. They looked at the United States and said a key feature of what has made the US so successful has been its patent system. And where reliable and effective property rights are provided, that is where innovation and productive activities occur.
Is it encourages people to invest in Chinese-based startups with Chinese patents. Therefore, investors will invest in those. China ends up with all these startups that should be in America.
Third phase, which is supplant. Supplant means replace. Supplant means retire. It means in some ways they no longer need us. They feel confident. They feel they can do their own thing.
They foster a culture of innovation and strengthen creation, protection, and application of intellectual property.
Well, China's been very clear about what its goals are, and you can read it. It's the Made in China 2025 initiative, which Chinese ruler Xi Jinping implemented beginning in 2015, and the goal is to dominate 10 identified areas. These are tech areas, these are critical to the future. He's added an area, 5G, the fifth generation of wireless communications. But China's made it very clear they want to become self-sufficient, and they also want to dominate those technologies for everybody else as well. Really what they see is that they have a right to all of our stuff, and they have a right to protect all of theirs. It's very simple.
And whereas 20 years ago, it was mostly the case that China was stealing our inventions and our technology, now they are directly competing with us. If you look at the number of scientific papers published, the number of PhDs issued, the number of patents issued.
We see that there has been much increased interest in intellectual property throughout the world in the course of the last decade in particular, but this has been growing for a longer period of time. The top source of international patent applications found under the Patent Cooperation Treaty became for the first time China in 2019. China passed the United States of America. So this is an historic event.
It's clear the Chinese intend to beat us at our own game, to dominate the world IP system, to weaken the American IP system, and to become the country that invents and innovates and then prevents others from having access to those same inventions.
If another country becomes more innovative than us, they then set the baseline for the creation of these technologies. We have to go to them for those technologies. So if another country, China, is trying to develop base stations for 5G and other types of technologies and artificial intelligence, then we would have to get those technologies from them.
Hi, Mom. Okay, yes, I know it's late, but I'm working on my entry for the robotics fair. Okay, I'm trying to find a way for you to keep up with Ariel and the bite-sized bot, but there's just a few things I need to test out. Yes, I am writing down everything and recording all my ideas, yes. All right, I'll be home soon. All right, bye.
America's always been where people come to invent things and where inventors who come here succeed. I'm Congressman Thomas Massie from Kentucky's 4th District. I was involved in virtual reality and artificial intelligence. That was at the MIT AI lab.
We're 100% off the grid here on the farm. Being here on the farm while trying to juggle this with going to Congress during the week has been an incentive for me to come up with more inventions that let you farm remotely or automatically. Some people have been raising chickens in these mobile chicken coops for a long time. They call them chicken tractors, but they're kind of a pain because you have to move them every day and you have to carry water to this thing. So one of my goals here was to make sort of the greenest way that you could raise chickens with the least amount of labor. So I built one that collects rainwater, so you don't have to bring the water to the chickens, and it moves itself every day. And the first version of this, which I ran all year, had a battery in it. But batteries go dead, and then you have to throw them away or recycle them. What I came up with was a way of using capacitors to move the tractor. This is what I call the Klux capacitor. So the food goes right in here. When I press this button, it'll feed. Then when I press this button, it'll move. The newest feature which I've implemented is sort of like a miniature electric fence that surrounds your church. Please, we're trying to film. You don't need a whole lot of energy stored inside of the Klux capacitor because it trickle charges for 20 minutes and then it just moves for a couple inches. This avoids the whole problem of wearing out batteries and throwing them away and trying to figure out how to build them and where all those toxic materials are going to come from and where they will go. As far as I know, this is the greenest way to raise chickens remotely. That's it. It's that simple. And there we go. These are eggs laid by chickens who were raised by Klux capacitors. No chickens are harmed in the filming of this. Innovation is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. In fact, I'm on the 5th version of my circuit board here. I started out up here, I called it the bird brain, then I decided to call it the Klux capacitor. And this is the current version that I'm on. There were problems with all of these, and it wasn't that I came up with new ideas that I wanted to include, it was that these had bugs and I had to fix them. And sometimes the only way to fix something is just to throw out the old one and start over again.
The moment of inspiration is often an epiphany. For many inventors, it's a process of innovation, and they examine a problem and consider options on how that can be solved and experiment with it. Necessity is the mother of invention, but frustration is its father. So many inventors find the way to solve a problem that they themselves have encountered. An inventor will be considering any multitude of things, and that idea is like a flash of light that comes to them that's showing them the way something can be done.
Take control.
Rover Perseverance made a successful landing there earlier, and now competition between these two leading nations for remote control of the cosmos extends millions of kilometers into space.
Remote control. Remote control.
There is a little bit of inventor in everybody. I think if more people were encouraged, in fact, to consider their ideas, even more products and solutions could be created.
Okay, how's it going?
And they cleared up that ice really quickly.
Yeah, it did. Wow. I'm Steve Perlman. I'm an American inventor with over 250 issued patents. It's not just you say, I'm going to be an inventor. It's not like the movies. It's we make things because there's a need for it.
And, oh, I brought up a QuickTime movie.
My team invented QuickTime, and I led the team in the 1980s. It's used whenever you want to play a video, stream a video, play a movie. It's turned out to be one of those innovations that really has lasted the test of time. To me, the greatest inventions that there are ones that not only bring us forward from technology, but also have a significant impact on us culturally.
There's a lot of technology that goes into producing a hockey game or any other event like a concert. I'm Jonathan Becker. I'm president of Sharks Sports and Entertainment, the parent organization of the National Hockey League's San Jose Sharks. What's been happening is more and more people are consuming the game. They're often going back to their cell phone to try to figure out what was going on, to see the replay in live time, or to get some enhanced stats. It means that in our building, 18,000 people simultaneously are trying to get on the internet and send information back to their friends, to post it on their favorite social network. Traditional mobile networks just can't handle that traffic. Wireless networks just can't handle that traffic.
If you happen to be in an unlucky seat, you probably have trouble sending a text or a photo. Other seats, it's great. The video kind of works okay, right? So it's completely random where you happen to be in the arena, whether or not the wireless works.
His premise was, well, maybe you don't have to pick one person over another. What if everybody had equal access to the internet simultaneously? That's the breakthrough innovation.
The reason we're here at SAP Center is because we're testing Artemis P-Cell.
You know, we've heard of 4G, 5G. This technology is really outside of the Gs. What it does is it increases the performance of any wireless technology by a factor of more than 10. And it's a fraction of the cost. And it's much easier to install. And it's all based on software rather than specialized hardware, so it's much more flexible. It can always be updated.
Everyone essentially gets their own dedicated network. The technology doesn't actually create a separate network, but that's what it feels like as a consumer, rather than sharing bandwidth with the person next to me.
So if you look out, you might see the screens turn on the phones. So what we've done is we've gotten 360 phones. There's 18,000 seats, so that's one per every 50 seats. And we've distributed them evenly around the entire arena. We're able to simultaneously test 360 phones. We can really show exactly what the limitations are for wireless systems because you get all these seats one after another.
To make this invention successful, he needed a real-world environment. There aren't many places in the world you can test that out. So I'm giving him time and energy capital as opposed to traditional venture capital.
So my name is Gary Lauder. I'm a venture capitalist, which means I invest in little companies to try to help them become big, successful companies. The term venture capital comes from adventure, and they dropped the ad, but it's still an adventure. A company that I invested in 1994, named Hybrid Networks, they invented asymmetrical cable modems. Today, all cable modems are asymmetrical. The company received a loan of $5 million, which was secured by, among other things, its intellectual property. They wouldn't have made that loan if were it not for the ability to have those patents as a backstop of value.
The patent system is interesting. It's got to be a unique invention, but there must be a public benefit. There has to be societal good. If there isn't, you don't get the patent. So there's a common good to the patent system that says, share your ideas, you get to profit from them, and we give you ownership of those ideas for a period of time, and in return, you have an obligation to share that for the common good.
It's patents that helped create the environment in which these inventions and innovations were able to attract the money and talent to grow as businesses and then ultimately survive in the marketplace. Our strong patent system was what led to the world's most innovative economies.
Other countries have come to realize this now. They've seen what 250 years of a robust patent system did for the United States, and countries like China are now improving their patent system.
What they did was they looked at the weaknesses and the flaws in the West's system, and the big flaw that they spotted was crony corporatism. Crony corporatism is something that is exercised by powerful corporations who are no longer inventing, who are no longer innovating, who are no longer taking risks, but that are capturing the regulatory state, policymakers, government, legislators, to create barriers to entry and pull up the drawbridge to protect their market share.
Big tech, the companies that we all know so well, the social media platforms, the internet companies, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, Apple, many of them got started on a patent.
And we have invented a new technology called multi-touch, which is phenomenal. It works like magic. And boy, have we patented it. So,
they recognize, along with the other companies, that patents protect the next disruptor, the next innovator, the next Google, and they wanted to short circuit that innovation cycle.
Some of the big technology companies were annoyed that inventors and owners of intellectual property that they were incorporating and using in their new products were actually coming to them and saying, you know, we own this intellectual property and, you know, we have to be paid a licensing fee from it, and they didn't want to have to do that. They found the private property rights and the ability to assert those property rights to be a massive inconvenience and an obstacle that was slowing them down.
Big tech was pushing for legislation to eliminate competition from startups and inventors.
Guru's Bunch Balloons, unleash summer with a splash!
Bunch Balloons is my invention that solves a long-standing problem of filling and tying water balloons. Big tech, they had these growing ballooning monopolies. The plan was to make sure that no startup could ever enforce their patents. For their agenda to succeed, they needed a villain, and they painted inventors as patent trolls. And they said inventors are interfering with our good work to serve society by bringing products to market.
Congress was presented with the argument that we need to fix the situation to save the U.S. innovation economy. They enacted a piece of legislation that's called the America Invents Act, ironically, in 2011.
You know, there's a term in Washington, D.C. they call unintended consequences. That's where a bill does something differently than what was intended.
My name is Judge Paul Michel. I served 22 years on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, the nation's patent court. I retired in 2010 for one main reason, and that was to be able to speak out publicly about the terrible policy decisions being made in Congress and by the Supreme Court. The American Invents Act is a statute passed by the Congress in 2011. It greatly changed the enforcement of patent rights. It created a new tribunal inside the patent office, the Patent Trial and Appeal Board, and gave it great powers to invalidate patents.
This has been the worst aspect of the American Invents Act. At the Patent Office, any third party could come along and challenge the validity of that patent ever having been issued in the first place. For example, inter partes review, which is Latin for between the parties.
The Patent Trial and Appeal Board, PTAB, has no jury. It doesn't have the due process that a real court has. You don't have the kind of discovery you have in a real court. The rules of evidence are lower at the PTAB. All of this works together to basically cause the PTAB to invalidate a much higher percentage of patents than would be invalidated in a real court. 84% of the patents that go all the way through the PTAB get fully or partially invalidated.
It quickly became known by the moniker coined by a former federal judge, a patent death squad. because what Congress did was it created an administrative tribunal that did not have to follow the basic rules of due process that govern our courts, and it was not constrained by respecting the property rights of patent owners in the same way that courts are required to respect the rights of individual citizens. And it gave that administrative tribunal one order: cancel patents. And it has eliminated tens of thousands of patents.
Part of what's happened in recent years, in part through the Patent Trial and Appeal Board, the PTAB, is that patents are now not as certain. They are subject to repeated challenges, so that a big company can just muscle its way over even the most valid patent by doing these repeat challenges and ultimately ending up invalidating or weakening a patent through repeated attack.
Usually the same defendants, which are generally big companies like Apple and Google, file multiple IPRs at the PTAB for the same lawsuit. It costs an average of $500,000 to defend oneself at the PTAB per case.
Its members are referred to as judges, but they're not really judges. Judges in America are appointed by the President and confirmed by the U.S. Senate. By contrast, members of the Patent Trial and Appeal Board are selected by the Patent Office. They're not confirmed by the Senate.
They're supposed to be persons of competent legal and technical capability. We've done the research, and 60% of these so-called judges have no technical experience. Their job is to write the words that invalidate your patent.
Many very legitimate patents have been invalidated for all sorts of incredibly stupid reasons by judges who often have clear conflicts of interest, where they're ruling on situations where their clients are among the parties they're ruling about.
Honestly, the PTAB was pushed by huge corporations and big tech. It has had a hugely negative impact on inventors.
A lot of people don't know that when they launched Google, they filed a patent on their search algorithm. They don't like to talk about that much anymore because they no longer are really firmly believers in the patent system.
And that kind of shocks people to hear that, because Google is not on the side of inventors when it comes to patent rights.
The Wall Street Journal published an article a few years ago about how Google has been privately soliciting academics to write articles that favor their positions. For example, the anti-intellectual property positions against patents and copyrights. This was exposed, and so they've tried to put it even further under the table, but it's still a very real issue.
There's some big tech companies up here whispering in the ears of congressmen, sliding campaign donations to them and saying, we want you to dilute the patent system even more, patting them on the back.
They engaged in a concerted campaign. Back of the envelope estimates are hundreds of millions of dollars were spent through lobbying, strategic litigation campaigns to get certain results from judges, and even lobbying regulators in the US government to go after patent owners and to weaken patent rights.
To think the Patent Office is supposed to be supporting inventors. When it comes to patents, which are supposed to be property rights, they've turned them into these political favors. Well, you know what? Big tech made it so. We had a patent system for 200 years that was based on merit. It was based on anyone of any walk of life, any social status could participate. And they've said, no, we don't want that system. We want the privilege system instead.
So the American Invents Act did two things primarily. First, it created this administrative tribunal at the Patent Office whose sole job is to cancel issued patents on the grounds that these were mistakenly issued. Second is it moved us away from a first-to-invent system to what's called a first-to-file system, so that no longer does the first inventor receive a patent in the United States. It's the person who actually just simply makes it to the Patent Office first.
Somebody unscrupulous could now, in fact, tell them their idea is no good. Don't even try to take it any further. And as soon as they walk out the office, that unscrupulous person could walk right over to that computer, type it in, and they are the first inventor to file. It changed the game entirely.
So all these factors make the deck stacked very much against patent plaintiffs. And what that does to those of us providing capital is to have to not rely on the patent system as much as we used to. So we have to lean more on trade secrets, or being first to market, or not investing in something that really, really needs patents in the first place. And as a result, you've actually seen that investments in those types of critical industries are going down.
China has seen these flaws in the system, and they've seen what crony corporatism has done to the patent system. And they've gone, what if we steal what actually worked well in America and we implement it in China?
They adopted many of the features of our patent system before it began to become weakened. So you get effective enforcement of your patent rights in China. You get full damages, full licensing capabilities of your patents.
The Chinese intellectual property system isn't just for enforcing patents between and among Chinese. The fact is that there are many multinational companies who have patents in the US, in Europe, and in China who have chosen their venue of litigation. They've chosen China to go against other multinationals. What that means is they've looked at all the different justice systems around the world, and they felt they could get the greatest likelihood of winning in China, which tells you a lot about their system versus ours.
If we change our laws and dilute our intellectual property incentives, and China changes their laws and makes their intellectual property incentives even stronger, they won't need to steal our intellectual property anymore. Their intellectual property is going to be better than ours because they will reward the people who develop it.
They had a traveling roadshow recently where they took our patent models from one of our museums, and they were encouraging Chinese citizens to invent and engage their population in the innovation process.
Now, in some respects, China has a better patent system by copying the model of America, which we've abandoned, and they've embraced and put on steroids.
So they're replicating what worked in America while we're destroying what worked in America.
Imagine you come out in your backyard one day and you look at the edge of your property and you see bulldozers and you hear chainsaws and somebody's cutting down your trees. And you go to the court and you say, "Judge, they're cutting my trees." And he says, "You know what? You're right. We got to stop that." That would be injunctive relief. The way it works with the patent system, though, and this is because it's been eroded over time recently, is if somebody's stealing your property, the judge says, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have to live with it. We're going to let them take it." If you can't protect your property, nobody wants to invest in it. You can't get venture capital money. You can't get distribution channels if people don't believe that you're going to be able to protect your property.
Predatory infringement is when a well-funded, well-established company says to the inventor, "I'm going to steal your invention. Go ahead and sue me. You can't outlast me, you can't outlitigate me, you can't outspend, and at the end of the day, you're going to get nothing." And they take advantage of the ability to hire many lawyers and to outlast a small company or an individual inventor. They take advantage of the fact that patents are weakened, patent owners cannot get an injunction. Predatory infringement is essentially what many people would call piracy. It's the deliberate stealing of someone else's invention simply because it's easier and cheaper to do it than to respect their property rights.
predatory infringement in grocery shopping would be you run into Walmart with a great big shopping cart, you throw as much stuff in there as you need and you can, and you get out of there as quickly as possible before anybody catches you, and you drive home.
The American patent system was long viewed as the gold standard, and that was for several reasons. One was the quality of our patents, but the other was the certainty, the ability to defend a patent in court and to know that a patent once held valid was valid and wasn't going to be subject to challenge after challenge after challenge.
The main problem I have with this whole scenario is that the companies that are destroying this fundamental source of value and improvement in our society, they're doing it to save a few basis points of their expenses. They're doing it without the awareness of the American public because, by and large, this whole issue of patent reform is way below the radar. It's not covered by media.
Big tech got what they want in the AIA. They got what they want out of the PTAB. And they're happy. I mean, their stock price is going up, their market cap's going up, and they don't care if they give everything away to China.
China is thinking about the long term, 100 years in the future. Who's going to be in charge? Who's going to be on top? That's what they think about. An American corporation does not think in those terms.
In the long run, so-called big tech companies will become interested once again in having a robust patent system. They will need it because they will be facing massive high-tech Chinese imports, and they can be blocked at the border under our laws if they're infringing U.S. patents held by American companies. So in the long run, big tech will want to have a strong patent system. In the short run, they're just trying to save money to further increase their astronomical profits, which is, I think, irresponsible and certainly short-sighted. The danger to our country is that China is going to dominate world economics and world technology, and we're helping them do it by continuing to further weaken our patent system, which is the backbone of our technology engine.
These are inventions that take many, many years, lots and lots of refinement, taking enormous risks, personal risks. But most of this work starts before an investor put money in. And then finally you get the thing working and you have a chance to make it in the market. And you start getting traction, and then this large entity comes and just copies what you're doing. Well, needless to say, there has to be a way to stop them, and that's where patents come in. And then after we get it out there, we go and show how it works in the marketplace, then, oh, by the way, we changed the patent laws. None of these things are enforceable. Now you've taken away even any chance of winning. There's no real way that you can litigate these things. Basically what you're doing is you're destroying the entire template of innovation for the United States and most of the free world.
Our patent system is now so full of holes and it's so weak that there's so many ways to destroy an inventor here in this country. Many inventors are deciding that their interests are better protected by going to China. They've decided it's not even worth pursuing the patent here in the US anymore. And when we see our innovations now going to China, we're witnessing a drain of our intellectual property.
Hi, my name is Don Marino. I'm actually here in Taiwan. It's where I live and where I work. I run a company, Asia Patent Group. So as I like to say, I'm a bit of a patent refugee out here in Asia. Not everybody in the US can locate Taiwan on a map, but Taiwan is an independent country. It's about 24 million people, has a presidency, a very vibrant democracy, a lot of freedom of the press. It is very different than the mainland China, both kind of politically and socially. When I started in the patent field, nobody even bothered to value Chinese patents because the view was there wasn't even a court in China that you could enforce your patents with. Additionally, there were no Chinese companies that were major brands in the world. You know, the US had a dominant position as the buyer of technology. Most of the PCs were sold in the US. A lot of the phones were sold in the US. Today, there are about 1 billion phones made in the world. Apple maybe makes 200 million of them. Samsung maybe makes 200 million of them. The rest of them are all made by Chinese companies. So you have huge companies like Huawei that only have about 120 billion in sales, control 15% of the patents in 4G, 5G space, which is the basic connection technology for cell phones. Apple, which has over twice the amount of sales, only has 3% of the patents. Huawei has less profits than Apple by about 80%. But Huawei is investing heavily in R&D. And they're converting that R&D into patents. Apple isn't.
During the Cold War, we were spending almost 2% of gross domestic product on science and technology and research. There was a lot of capital available to take those ideas and turn them into businesses. In China, that's what happens today.
Dominating technology means you dominate the economy of the world. Dominate the economy of the world, you dominate the world itself. So it all goes back to the question of who is going to develop the technologies of tomorrow. 5G is the 5th generation of wireless communications. It will permit what people call the Internet of Things. In the Internet of Things, all the devices in the world are connected. So it's not only your computer and your phone, it's your front door, your toaster, your car, your pacemaker. All of these are connected to the Internet of Things. That means that anyone who controls the backbone of 5G, there's the possibility that a malicious power will be able to remotely manipulate them. That means they can burn your toast, they can drive your car off a cliff, or they can turn off or speed up your pacemaker.
China completely missed 2G and 3G, and frankly 4G. But they have a national strategy that Xi Jinping has articulated and led that says they are not going to miss 5G. They are not going to miss a chance to be the world leader in artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence is really, it's 3 things. It's data on a very large scale. It's data analytics on a very fast speed. And what really sets aside modern artificial intelligence from previous iterations is the ability to action without human intervention. So this could give great advantage in both commercial, civilian, and military applications.
In artificial intelligence, China is currently far outstripping the United States. I know we like to say that the United States is much better in artificial intelligence, but in reality, in the quality and amount of data that China has really enables them to leap ahead of the United States. They are able to take government data and private data, mix it together, because there is no difference between the government and companies. China created the social credit score, and it was actually developed by a gentleman that had been working on our credit rating agencies here in the 80s. He took it back to the Chinese Communist Party. He said, credit rating is great, but let's expand it to the entire society. So they created the social credit score. So the Chinese Communist Party now monitors you. So there's 2 cameras for every person in Beijing. Plus, everybody does everything on their phone. They do all their purchases, their airline tickets, their food. The Chinese Communist Party uses the social credit score as an autonomous system to make sure they control the behavior of their citizens. If you drink, if you smoke, if you jaywalk, if you curse the government, your score goes down. When that happens, they decline to give you goods and services. So the idea is if they control this next iteration of the internet, their ability to influence consumer behavior, social behavior, political behavior will be baked in to the system.
They are hell-bent on dominating and controlling the cyber domain and the means to exercise power in it and the means to be able to say what can be said and to silence the things that they want to have silenced.
And frankly, if China's approach to intellectual property becomes the dominant world approach, then the way the United States has been an inventive and creative society, an open society, is at genuine risk.
China has this doctrine of military-civil fusion. which means that the People's Liberation Army has access to all technology in China, regardless who holds it. Which means that even if you have just a private educational institution that's got a campus in China, well, the technology that it possesses can end up in the hands of the Chinese military.
They could push through products and technologies that would have dual use. They could use it in their commercial products, cars and phones, or they could use it in their missiles.
That's the essence of China's military-civil fusion. If it's usable in the civilian space, they're going to be looking for its military application. You do see progress on their part.
The way we win the innovation warfare fight is we get back to basics, strengthen our patent system, and rein in our antitrust system to help small and medium-sized inventors work with manufacturers to bring new goods and new services to market fast. China's incentive will be to collaborate with us rather than to compete or create violence with us.
For the last several years, we've sort of lost the manufacturing war with China. They have been willing to treat their employees worse. They've been willing to pollute their environment more than anybody here in the United States would do. So we've competed on our intellectual property. If we take that away, okay, if we give up on the manufacturing competition, and if we give up on the intellectual development competition, we become a nation of consumers, and we become wholly dependent on all the other nations.
That makes it a national security risk for us, because if we are getting equipment from them for our infrastructure, so we are putting in Chinese equipment in our telecommunications infrastructure and in the broader electronic infrastructure that will ultimately run our financial systems and potentially even our defense systems and the government, our cities and everything of the sort, with the flick of the switch, China could shut down our country.
When people talk about, China being aggressive, I always think about something very simple, which is how much of the Chinese GDP is tied to semiconductors. That's the linchpin technology in digital. It's all about the semiconductor.
The foundation of any information technology is the chips. Modern artificial intelligence is dependent upon these advanced, high-quality chips to collect the data, analyze the data, and action the data.
Semiconductor chips are absolutely essential in every weapon system the United States has, in every radar system, in every communication system. We could not have the world-leading advanced and sophisticated military that we have without world-class semiconductor chip manufacturing.
Making that semiconductor is really, really hard. I like to say that, in some ways it's like being a master chef, and each of the steps is a specific dish that you have to make. And it only works if every one of those dishes are made perfectly. The good news is, even though China has tried to build all these semiconductors, they don't really work very well. Their quality isn't any good. It might be 20 years before they catch up. So from where I'm sitting, within about 50 miles, about 35% of all the semiconductors are made in the world. TSMC. Chinese semiconductor industry, they're gonna need somebody like TSMC to make that key chip that makes all the other chips work together. Their electronics industry is between 20 and 30% of their GDP. If TSMC isn't making chips for them, it goes to zero. If all of a sudden TSMC has a problem and China can't get any of those chips, all those companies can't ship products, and they don't have the GDP that supports it. That's a big problem for China.
Ultimately, this is a communist state. In China, there are property laws. People may own things, quote unquote, but it will generally be temporary. And the problem here is that there's less room for foreign investors, there's less room for Chinese domestic private entrepreneurs, there's less room for this whole notion of private property. China's moving in very dangerous directions.
China's digital authoritarianism which they are now exporting to other countries around the world, puts the state at the top of everything and the individual at the bottom. This is not a free and open society. It's as far from it as you can be in the modern world. And I think there's many Americans who aren't yet clear just what a fundamental challenge this is to the American way of life and to open societies, to democracies for this century and beyond.
It all goes back to the question of who is going to develop the technologies of tomorrow.
We're not going to beat China if we don't provide for American citizens. How we won the Cold War is by beating the Soviet Union economically. With science and technology, with innovation, we grew our economy, we took care of our people, we protected them, we deterred war. But ultimately, we had a better society that provided for American citizens.
Williams, meet Dr. Burke. Hi.
Hello, Kayla. It's interesting. I saw a remote control exactly like this earlier in the fair.
What? This is my invention. How have you seen it already?
I'm sorry.
Why invent if someone else can just take it away from you? If you weaken the rights of the inventor, there is much less incentive to invent, whether it's a small problem or a big problem. And that hurts innovation across the board, whether it's for personal use, for private use, for military use. And that allows other countries to take the lead and to surpass us in areas that are very important, including national security.
Let our new Sputnik moment be recognition that China is really, really close to achieving its goal of domination of the communications domain globally. This needs to be our Sputnik moment.
Unless we right this ship, then innovation will be primarily coming out of China and other countries that have better IP systems, but it won't be so much of an American thing anymore.
And we need to wake up to the reality that we have to invest in strengthening our own innovation and research economy here in the United States and strengthen our patent system if we want to have a chance of competing and winning in the 21st century.
We didn't win the Cold War with the Soviet Union by becoming more like the Soviet Union. We won the Cold War by remaining true to our ideals. The country that was created in the Constitution that has the copyright and patent clause and many other restrictions on the government to respect and protect people's rights to lives, liberty, and property.
We have an amazing history of innovation in America. The term American dream might not have ever even been coined if we had never had our patent system. Think about that. Because a big part of the American dream is the whole concept of being an inventor and actually doing something valuable and being rewarded for it.
We need to fight for our inventors. We need to fight for innovation. Stand up and fight for this.
Wait, Dr. Burke? Kayla, show him your designs. Prove that you were the first to invent.
Yeah, okay, so here is the original design with dates.
We can win the competition with China if we are aware, address, and take action.
This deserves another look.
We have got to do what we did in the late 1950s, which was to mobilize government and society to achieve a common purpose.
The Constitution authorizes Congress to create the patent system to secure to inventors their exclusive rights. And in fact, there are several pieces of legislation pending in Congress that would address some of these concerns.
Mine would restore the first to invent right of an inventor instead of the first person to get to the patent office and file. It would restore things like injunctive relief.
Some of the provisions of my Stronger Patents Act would ensure that the appeal standards are the same as they would be in a district court, and that you can't use repeated PTAB challenges to a patent to simply harass or even invalidate an otherwise valuable patent.
Talk to your representatives and tell them that you want your kids to still have the rights to their ideas as our kids have and as our four founders wanted.
And I have to remind my colleagues up here that their job is not to screw this up for the inventors, because it's the inventors that make the world more livable.
Mom, I won the robotics scholarship. Okay, you were right. Someone stole my design, but my notes proved that I was the real inventor. Yes, you told me so.
Innovation and the opportunity it creates matters. Invention matters.
I'm an American vet, and I always believe in American values and traditions and making things in America. When we've seen times get tough, the tough got going. Innovators come up, and entrepreneurship really blossoms.
The heart of the American way is to try something new. That's what's created the U.S. that we all know and love. And we got to be careful that we don't kill off that spirit of entrepreneurism.
This flight control, confirming that we have PBRs from Ingenuity. Ingenuity's report.
American patents are extremely valuable. This is still a brilliant place for inventors to file for patent protection.
We are an innovative country. We are the leading innovation point in the entire globe.
And liftoff.
But we need to keep investing in the American system because we have one of the most powerful economies in the world, and that's where inventions are going to continue to be made.
It's the one thing that we can really do. We can innovate. And that led to this lifestyle we have and this huge economic success that America has.
America has always been where people come to invent things and where inventors who come here succeed.
And if you empower us, it'll be unimaginable the things that we'll come up with.
We're on the front lines of America. We are trying to invent the future for you. We're trying to make the world a better place. We're the soldiers on the front line of the innovation war. Do not abandon us, please.
Clearly, this is a race that we cannot afford to lose because we're not going to have a country if we lose.
When we can bring back the trust in those patents, we'll bring back the investors here to this country. We'll bring back the jobs to this country. The world we're about to move into is going to be a wonderful place to live if our virtues and morals of freedom are allowed to prevail.
I am the future of America. My ideas will become the innovation of tomorrow, cures to diseases, and the technologies that will strengthen our nation. Protect that future now. Change can happen in just one lifetime. Make mine count.